So I've just finished reading Talk Like Ted by Carmine Gallo, the author of the best-selling book, The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. Someone who really has got a business actually that's based on coaching leading executives around the world, and somebody who has met some of the world's greatest public speakers. In this book, what Carmine does is he looks at the phenomenon that is TED. So TED is now essentially an idea sharing event where one speaker has 18 minutes and 18 minutes only to deliver their message, to spread their ideas, their knowledge about technology, about education, about design. The key to TED is all about using one person's story, so to speak, to educate and inspire other people. TED has benefited enormously from the rise of social media sites such as YouTube, which gives its videos huge exposure, but also its own website and app, which are free to use and free to watch the videos on, and really great resources for anybody who is interested in learning more about other people's ideas, but also it's a great resource for anybody who wants to get better at public speaking. And that really is the object of this book. So the book's split into three sections. Throughout the book, Carmine talks about the rule of three, how you want to break your presentations down into three components that serve an overall headline. So the three parts of the book, the first is emotional. And again, within the book, he gives us 9 secrets on how to talk like TED. Within the emotional category, he talks about how passion is so important. Passion is the key to mastering a skill like public speaking, and that you can't fake passion. A lot of what this book talks about is the importance of using your own authenticity when you present and when you talk in public. And the key to that, the key to passion, is to talk about something that you are authentically passionate about. And that has to be intensely meaningful and core to your identity. If you can encapsulate that in your message, in your presentation, though, you can passion is infectious, it's contagious, and you can inspire the people who are listening to go on and talk about you and spread your word, spread your gospel, so to speak. The emotional category of this book talks as well about the importance of mastering the art of storytelling. So personal stories, especially if they come from a position, personal stories anyway, naturally come from a position of vulnerability because the speaker is sharing something intimate about their lives with the audience. But if you can cleverly use personal stories, well, then you can grab the attention of your audience in nearly every communications format. The key to this book as well is talking about a lot of science and how the science backs up the points that Carmine makes. And the science really backs up the belief that human beings are primarily wired to respond emotionally. And the vast majority of the three spheres, the three categories that this is broken down to, talk about the emotional aspects of your presentation. He talks about how the person who got the longest standing ovation in the history of TED spent 65% of his presentation telling stories. That's Brian Stevenson, who is a human rights lawyer. Finally, within the emotional category, Carmine talks about the need to have practiced relentlessly to the point that your speech comes across as natural, as though you're having a conversation with your audience, and draws reference to Steve Jobs, who was renowned for practicing time and time and time again, logging hundreds of hours of practice before delivering his speeches. And before his death, Steve Jobs was known as one of the best business communicators on the planet. Secondly, Carmine talks about the need for novelty, how the brain, again, it can get bored very quickly with boring and dull information. So you need to present ideas that your audience hasn't considered and present them in a way that can be humorous. Because if you can get people to laugh, well, that can engage their brain and cause and create harmony between the speaker and the audience. Also, don't be afraid to use gestures, especially if you're a free thinker. That's actually going to help you to talk out your ideas and your passions a lot more. Remember, we want to use the law of state transference, which is to put what we're feeling, our passion, our enthusiasm for the subject that we're talking about, into our audience. So you want to try and do things that are novel. And he talks about Bill Gates releasing mosquitoes into the crowd during his TED Talk in 2009. And that was what the author refers to as an emotionally charged event. And by doing that, Gates ensured that his talk went viral the next day and people were sharing it. People were talking about it because he did something novel, releasing mosquitoes into the audience when delivering a speech about malaria is potentially dangerous. But fortunately, Gates informed the audience that they didn't have malaria. So be jaw-dropping, but don't hurt or harm your audience, I think was the message from that part. And finally, a little bit subjectively, the author talks about the need to be memorable. So to talk like TED, you have to be remembered. So you need to employ all of the things we've talked about so far, but you also need to stay within the 18 minutes length, and you need to ensure that you're on point and you're focused, that you're using visual cues, and that it's a multi-sensory experience for your audience, that they can feel, see, and hear your vision, your ideas. And finally, just stay in your lane. So throughout is the message of being authentic to yourself, to who you are, and that congruence will really come across to the audience and help your ideas to spread.